Hi everyone, welcome back to AI Incarnation. Today, we are building an AI chat app that runs entirely locally using Ollama and Streamlit. No API fees, no internet required, just your computer's power. We will create an interface similar to ChatGPT, but with full control over AI model. So, let's dive in. Today's agenda is as follows. App demo, Ollama setup basics, code walkthrough, customization ideas, and pro tips for optimal use. Stick around. I'll share some killer Streamlit tricks that you haven't seen before. Before we start, make sure that you have Python installed on your machine. Ollama is running locally. You can check using the command ollama serve that will start the Ollama server. At least one of the model is downloaded from Ollama. And you should have Streamlit and Request library installed on your system. If not, you can use the command pip install Streamlit and Request. I'll put the links in the description below, so don't worry. And if you face any issues, you can drop a comment and I'll be happy to help. Without wasting time, let's dive into the demo. I'm having my VS Code editor here, so inside my folder, I'll create a new virtual environment that will be Python space hyphen m virtual environment, and environment name will be the same virtual environment for now. The environment is created. Now we can simply activate it using the command virtual environment name scripts, then activate. Our environment is activated and I can install the two libraries that I want, that is pip install Streamlit and request. So these are the two libraries that are required for this particular demo. It will take some time and it will install these two libraries. Okay, so the libraries are installed and we can start working on the application. So I'll simply create a new file that will be app.py, and in this we'll start from the basics that are the foundation of this app. So we will import Streamlit as st. This is for the web interface. Next is we want request. Request is to communicate with the Ollama's API, and the third one is import JSON. This is for parsing the response that we get from request. And we need an Ollama URL variable that will store the Ollama URL, that is http then localhost colon 11434/API. So this is the base URL for Ollama, which is running locally on my system. And next thing is that we will simply create a title for this app, that is st.title, and we'll give it a name that is Ollama chat app using local models. And we can also set a page config, that is st.page set page config, and here we can give page title. We'll give the title as Ollama chat, and if you want you can give the page icon. Let's try to define the get models function. This function is used to get all the local models that we are on our system. We will create a try catch block, that is response is equals to request.get formatted string, and we need Ollama URL, then tags. So this is the URL to fetch all the models from the local system, and we will return the list of models, that is model then name of the model for model in response.json, then models, and we'll give the exception part except exception as E, and we can simply say st.error. That will be a formatted string using could not load models, and error will be the exception error, and it will return just an empty list. So that's it. Next thing is that we will create a sidebar with st.sidebar, and here we will add a header st.header that will be settings, and here we will have the models called models is equals to get models. So this will get all the models in our local system. We can simply check if not models, then we can say st.error, that will be no models found. Start Ollama and download models first. So this will be the message if we don't have any models loaded. And in the else part, we'll simply say selected model will be equals to st.selectBox, and in this we will simply say choose model, and we'll give the models list. That's it. We want to store the user chat history in the session state in Streamlit. So for that, we can simply check if messages not in st.session state. That means we don't have any messages. We will initialize the st.session state.messages with an empty list. st.session state.messages is equals to an empty list. That means we don't have any messages. And to display the message, we will iterate through all the messages in the session state, and we will put it in the markdown. So for message in st.session state.messages, we'll simply say with st.chat message, and we will give it a message, then role. For example, there can be two roles, the user and the assistant. So then we will simply say the markdown to print these messages, message and content. To capture the user input in one line of Streamlit magic, we will be using the walrus operator, that is if prompt colon equals to, that is the walrus operator, and we will simply say st dot chat input, and select, we will display a message ask me anything dot 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 and colon. Then after this we will simply say st dot session state dot messages dot append, and we will append the messages as role of user and the content as prompt. We will display the message immediately, so for that we will simply say with st dot chat message, and it will be the user message. So we'll simply say st dot markdown, and we will say prompt, that will be the user message shown us. Then we will prepare the API request, that will be prepare the API request, and that will be in form of a JSON. So we will simply say data is equals to JSON formatted string, so that will be model, and in the model we will pass the selected model. After that we will simply say the second thing as messages, and in that we will simply pass st.session state dot messages. That's the message that we want to pass in the messages, and we'll simply say stream as true. We match the Open API's format for compatibility. Setting stream2 at both the data and request level enables chunked responses. Once we have this data ready, then we will simply say a try catch block. In try, we will simply say in the try we will simply say with st dot chat message and assistant, that will be response placeholder equals to st dot empty, and we'll simply create a variable full response is equals to an empty string. Stream the response from Ollama, so we will use with request dot post, and inside this we will simply give the formatted string Ollama URL, and we'll simply say chat. So this is the chat API for Ollama, and we will pass the JSON data as data that we have created, and we'll simply say stream is equals to true. So we want the stream response, so that's the reason we are saying this, and we'll simply say as response, and we will say response dot raise for status. So after this we will simply say for line in response dot iter lines. If line, then we need to do the chunk part. Chunk is equals to JSON dot loads, and we need to pass the line dot decode. The encoding will be UTF-8. If content, then we will do the chunk dot get message, and we will get content, and we'll say full response plus equals to content, and response placeholder dot markdown, we will say full response plus response placeholder dot markdown, we will simply say full response, and we will add assistant response to the history using st dot session state dot messages dot append, and we'll simply say the role will be equals to assistant, and content will be equals to the full response, and we will use the accept block, accept request dot exceptions dot request exception as e, and we will simply say st dot error and formatted string API request failed with error this. and we will again say the JSON exception except JSON dot JSON decoder, and we'll simply say st dot error, that will be failed to parse API response. If we are having any JSON error, we can handle that with this JSON decoder. Okay, so we have one error here. So to fix this, we'll simply say this is the response, so it should be below, and one more. So I forgot to add the colon here. We'll simply save this and test it on the terminal. We'll activate the virtual environment that we have just created. Scripts activate. To run this application, we'll simply say Streamlit run app.py. Okay, so here is the chat application that we have just built. On the left hand side, we are having the sidebar, and here we are having all the models that I'm having on my local. I can simply select any one of them. For example, let me select Llama 3.2, and once it is selected, we can simply chat with the model. We'll simply say hi. Okay, we can see that the model is running, and we can ask some questions like write a Python program to connect to SQL database. You can see the model is quite fast and the response time is also good. So this is the complete model that we are running on a local. No internet required, nothing, no API cost. So it has given us the output. Here's an example of Python program that connects to a SQL database using the SQLite 3 library. This is pretty much documented in a class form, which is good. We are having a complete code in our local, and it has given you the usage also, how you can use it. Let's ask, explain me this code step by step. Explain me the code step by step, and it has given us the breakdown of the code in smaller sections and explained each part in details. For example, importing the libraries, defining the database connection class, then connecting to the database, then creating the table, inserting the data, how we can insert it, and also explained it in bullet points, which is good. Selecting the data, then usage examples. So here are a few tips that you can try to enhance this model. For example, by adding model parameters such as temperature and max tokens. You can play around with them and see how it affect the model output. Also, you can customize the CSS with st.markdown, and you can implement the chat history management using JSON files or any other format that you want to store the chat history. Also, you can add a model refresh button so that you can have a button here. When you click on that button, it will refreshes the latest model on your system. So these are some enhancements that you can try, and you can add the temperature and max number of tokens as well in the settings sidebar. If you like this video, smash that like button, subscribe for more AI and app tutorials.